how's the training going getting ready for this fight?
No, it's going real well. Just finished a nice hard sparring session. Yeah, I haven't even showed yet. So that's how committed I am to you guys. I'm willing to make other people and myself put up with my sparring stank.
Oh.
Should I give you some interview time?
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. There's nothing like that sweaty, board short MMA smell, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And you know what? It doesn't matter what pair you wear, how many times you wash it, or even if you ever buy a new one, that smell's always the same. There's something about it. It's terrible.
Yeah, so, first off, I was reading your UFC bio on UFC.com, and there's some interesting things on there about how you got into MMA. Apparently, you weren't a wrestler or anything. You were actually playing rugby, and then you got involved in mixed martial arts just to stay in shape and fell in love with it. So, I mean, what was that transition like? It's kind of an interesting step over.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been the kind of guy that, if you like, write down on a piece of paper, like, what I'm supposed to do, I'll go to the gym and I'll do it, whatever, 100 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, or whatever, I'll go and do it. But, like, you know how it is, you go to the gym on your own, and you just kind of float around, like, oh, let's do this 4 times, I'll go on the elliptical for 10 minutes, and, So, I like having that structure to do something, so it was like the rugby off-season, unlike most of the guys on my team said, just kind of sit there, gain 20 pounds of beer weight, and I was like, no, I want to do something. And I figured I'd only be doing it for a couple months, because that's how long the off-season was until, the spring semester. So I didn't want to do any traditional martial art. I figured, why am I going to just sit there, do like, I had my white belt for a month and a half, so I just kind of went online, searched, I just literally searched martial arts Milwaukee, or like boxing Milwaukee, and then like, I kept searching a bunch of different things, and then like Duke's Gym kept popping up, so I went there, started doing it, I was like, oh yeah, I like this, and then it's weird, it's hard to imagine. I walked in the door there probably like, it was like the fall of 2004, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's just crazy to think now I'm in the UFC. It's just everything kind of snowballed. At first I was like, oh, do you want to do sparring? I was like, okay. So I bought my sparring helmet, got beat up a bunch, and then I started doing amateur fights, and then I started doing MMA, and it's, before I knew it, here I am, ready to fight Jeremy Stevens on June 4th.
Yeah, and I was actually about to ask you, since you, just kind of did it to stay in shape, what were your expectations getting out of it? I mean, you were just trying to get some exercise in, but at one point did you decide that this was something that you really wanted to pursue full time and really make a kind of a career out of it? I mean, how did that happen? Was it just one day in training you noticed you were picking stuff up, or did you just kind of fall in love with it instantly and it kind of became your passion?
Yeah, I mean, part of it is just my attitude as a whole, and at first I was like a perfectionist, like, and I hate losing, like even, that's why I don't play Jenga with my girlfriend, just because I lose, and this is stupid. Like, she even called me one day, I was practicing, I was like, no, I gotta get better at Jenga. So there's part of that, like, no, I just gotta get better at it. Part of it too is just, I was never like a real athletic person growing up. Yeah, I played rugby and things, but I only got through those kind of by toughness. I was like kind of I was a bookworm. I was a nerd growing up, so like, it's like, wow, I'm doing something like, masculine and tough, and it was pretty cool. And then it was weird because I kept doing it and I kept winning, and then I kept winning. I was like, wait a second, this is pretty cool. So then I was getting ready to graduate from college, and everyone's like, what am I gonna do? And I was looking at job applications, grad school apps, and I was like, I don't really want to do that. So I just had like a lunch with Duke, my coach and stuff, and I just asked him straight out, like, you think I could, maybe take a run at this as a professional, seeing that I trust his opinion, because, he's been in the martial arts business, his whole life, and he said, yeah, I could, so, he had that kind of, that seal of approval. I came back after I graduated and just started hitting it, and, worked my way up from kind of small local shows in the backyards of bars in Wisconsin, and here I am ready to fight the bombs.
Right, and that leads into our next question pretty nicely. One of our listeners, his screen name is Bukaki, which is pretty classy, but he asked a question you've probably been asked a bunch of times, but you're training with Duke Roufus, one of the a great legendary kickboxer. Of course, there's a ton of talent up there, as people know now. There's Anthony Pettis, Eric Koch, and I'm sure a lot of other people that are going to be making waves soon. Of course, Pat Barry at heavyweight. What's it like training with Duke as a coach, and with all the talent that's up at that gym?
The one thing that's been nice is, like, I can honestly say the gym is the same today as it was, a few years and everyone's talking about that. But he still comes in and puts in the work the same way he did before, everyone knew his name. So things have just, that's the best thing about the game. Things have been, the same. We just keep going there, keep hammering it, trying to get better, and just, keep working our way up.
Right, and before we get into your better moments of late, your WEC debut, I mean, I'm sure it was a big thing for you to get a shot at that stage, but it was a very tough fight. You faced Chris Horodecki on basically a few days' notice. You had to cut a ton of weight. I've even spoken with Duke and Eric about it, and they talked about how hard that was on you. Talk about making that weight cut and just getting through that fight, because it didn't look like it was easy for you just to, try and...
No, I gotta say that was like one of the worst moments of my life. It was the summertime, and I had a fight like that in April in another show, and I just kind of let myself go. I wasn't training that hard. I was just, usual drinking, eating bad stuff. I got the fight. Actually, it was funny because I got the phone call. From the bar. Duke was asking me if I wanted to fight. I was sitting in a bar ready because it was like 25-cent wing night. I was ready to go hit that, and I was like, well, maybe I shouldn't. So I remember, what's your weight at? And, usually when you get that question, it's not just, like, hey, what's your weight at? How's your day going? I was like, oh, shoot, I got to fight. And I thought it was just going to be some, like Green Bay, Wisconsin or something. He's like, oh, do I fight Chris Horodecki in Edmonton, WEC, Saturday? And this was like Tuesday night. I was like, sure. So, I think that Tuesday when I got the call, it was like 178, 179 pounds. So, I remember that I went on the kind of the lattice diet, and didn't really eat much. Diuretics, things like that, immersement. It was like, the weight cut that day, I got up early. It was like 6.5 hours, like in the sauna, kind of in and out, just sweating it. It was miserable. I still can't look at saunas the same way. Whatever, like, yeah, let's go in the sauna to work out. Nope, I just associate with bad things. And yeah, I made weight and everything. And I honestly, when I got in that fight, I didn't feel that bad, but it was like, damn man, we got up against the edge, we're like, okay, now push back. There was just like there was no power. Like I used up everything on the weight cut. But I just tried to, gotta cut it out, people say, well, why would you take the fight? Wouldn't you say no? I was like, would you tell the WEC? I was like, Dan Downs, nobody's fighter. Am I gonna tell the WEC no? Come back to me when it's convenient for me. So, I mean, honestly, I ended up working out pretty well. I ended up coming back, WC 53, getting the win against Zhang. Here I am fighting in the UFC. So, hindsight, it was a great move.
Yeah, Danny, I wanted to ask you about that fight with Tiatren Zhang. It seemed like there was a lot of hype around him, and you were kind of seen as the underdog, even though you have more experience. Did you kind of relish playing the spoiler, or was it just something that, you wanted to go in and put your name on the map?
Oh, yeah, I definitely like being the spoiler. I mean, I get all the time people like, wow, you don't look like a fighter. Even when I won my first 7 pro fights, I'd come out, like 6-0 in some, local fight up here in Wisconsin. People was like, oh, this kid's going to get his ass kicked. Like, so people didn't count me out from the beginning. So it's kind of fun. But I tell people, if you see someone that looks like Brock Lesnar go up there and pummel some dude, you're like, well, of course, look at him. He's a monster. But, when I come out there and start, beating people, it's like, well, look at that kid. So, in a way, yeah, you want to be like, you want people to be, give you your kudos. But at the same time, it's kind of nice because it makes everything I do look even more impressive just because I'm a skinny, pale, white kid.
Yeah, and I noticed after your big win over Zhang, and which was kind of cool because of course he was a guy they brought in, a good fighter, but also they wanted to really capture that Chinese market, so you kind of spoiled their plans a bit. But after that, you had a fight back in the NAFC, which is a show I know Duke is involved with, and I read the recap. I'll admit it wasn't a fight I got to see, but I read the recap, and it sounds like you had a bit of a scare there. First off, why'd you end up taking that fight in between, and what was it like being in there, probably feeling like you had a lot to lose, and having to kind of come back and get the submission in that first round?
UFC merger is a big kind of logjam at lightweight, and I just, I'm still pretty inexperienced by comparison, so it's just nice to kind of go there. The UFC let me have the opportunity to go there and get some experience. I tell people you can spar, you can hit pads, you can you can train as much as you want, And then, it's funny because it's like the exact opposite of the Zhang fight. The Zhang fight, it's a big underdog. You're trying to play spoiler, whereas in that one, I was the big favorite. It was kind of that thing, like, I have everything to lose. And, but it's fun to play that. So, the guy, hey, I wouldn't call him scary. The guy was just trying to kind of muscle the submission. But, ended up getting the quick submission victory, and thanks to that, that was the reason I was able to take the Stevens fight in short notice.
Does it feel any different training knowing that it's going to be in the UFC now, or do you feel kind of like, the preparations are sort of the same?
I mean, it's I guess a non-answer, but it's kind of both. Obviously, no matter what the stage, a fight in some sense is still a fight. And, WC, especially the WC 53, was another fight on a big stage, so you get used to that. But, at the same time, again, nothing compares to the UFC. Every next fight is the biggest fight of your career, no matter what it is. Even if you're coming off a loss, coming off a win, you're always trying to climb that ladder. So every time you get in there, there's something more at stake. So, obviously there's some greater at stake now than it was in my last fight, even, the fight before that. So, just, the big thing is, I don't know, I try not to think about it too much. Because when you think about it too much, it'll freak you out too much. You'll just get self-paralysis. So I just try to, keep the same routine, go there, try to treat it like any other night.
Now, Danny, going into this fight with Jeremy Stephens, he's mostly a striker. I know you don't want to give away part of your game plan, but do you at least have like an extra sense of confidence working with Duke and all the great strikers at your team?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The one thing that helps you is, especially working with people like Eric Koch and Anthony Pettis, I see so many ridiculous moves that, like, you think you were watching, like a kung fu movie. So, he's not going to throw something that I've never seen before. You just feel confident going against your training partners. That's the whole thing. We try to say, kind of mantra at the gym is the fight should be the easy part. We always put ourselves in bad positions, so we can do stuff where you got to face like a new, fresh guy every minute, but you got to stay in there like 15 straight. We want to make it so the worst you ever feel is in the training room. You should never feel worse in the cage than you do when you're training. We just try to bring that out when we go, and and it'll play out like that in the fight itself. I think it's kind of the low expectations. I think people look at me like, oh well, this kid's just gonna get thrown around like a rag doll. Yeah, he's a big, strong guy, but I mean, everyone in the UFC is big and strong. They wouldn't be UFC fighters if they weren't good. You can't just have like pillow hands and make it in the UFC. So, that's the thing. He's big and strong, but I feel like that I have a lot more weapons than he does. Being big and strong is good, but it's still it's limiting. There's only so much you can do just being big and strong. So, I just try to, outwit him, use all my different tools instead of just trying to go strength for strength with him.
Right. And lastly, and then we'll get ready to let you go, but your teammate, obviously, Anthony Pettis, is also fighting on that card in the main event against Clay Guida. I've heard fighters bring this up before. How much of an advantage is it to have a teammate fighting on the exact same day as far as your preparation and really kind of trying to build up and peak at the right time? And also, what do you think of that fight between him and Guida? How do you see it going down?
Yeah, it's nice whenever you have guys kind of in the same camp because you're all trying to work hard at the same time. Honestly, we always try to help everyone, but, say, I didn't have a fight for like 4 months from now, it'd be hard for me to really kind of go 100%. You know what I mean? It's just kind of, maybe you don't have, you try to give them the work, but you're not going to be in as good a shape as you are if you're, 10 weeks in your training camp. So that helps. The way, again, I kind of see, like Anthony, Guido, and Stevens, I think Anthony, Clay Guida's a great fighter, but I think Anthony has, too many weapons he can throw at him. Guida's great, but I think just, Anthony's skills are so diverse, whether it's standing up on the ground, in the air, off the cage. He's got a lot of tools in his thing. Like, if say A and B don't work, Anthony